So, dear students, welcome back to classroom. In our previous lectures, we have discussed the uh, structures called Fisher projection formula or linear structures of the carbohydrates, particularly monosaccharides. And we discussed aldotrioses, aldotetroses, aldopentoses, aldohexoses, and ketotrioses, ketotetroses, ketopentoses, and ketohexoses. But all those structures, they were linear structures. Now today, in this lecture, we'll understand in case of pentoses and hexoses, we'll understand their cyclic structures, how their cyclic structure looks like, uh, and as far as the cyclic structure of the glucose is concerned, let's cyclic structures of hexoses will take up first glucose molecule. Let's understand glucose molecule. And in this glucose molecule, uh, we understand that this is an aldohexose with the terminal aldehyde at the carbon number 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And this is the terminal carbon. And here we have this is OH, OH, H, H. This is OH and H. And this is again here OH and H. So here I will just number it. 1, 2 is a chiral carbon, and 3 is again a chiral carbon. It's 4, it's again a chiral carbon. It's 5, again a chiral carbon. So it has a 4 chiral carbon, as I already told you that how many stereoisomers are possible in case of hexoses. And this glucose molecule, this is having a very special group here that is known as the aldehyde group here. Look at this is the aldehyde group, and this aldehyde group, it does not explain all the properties of aldehyde in the linear structures of glucose molecule or in the hexoses. This aldehyde group does not explain all the properties because I have already this structure is called a Fisher projection. Now I'm just going to talk about the Haworth projections. So we are going to understand about the projections called as Haworth projection formulae, Haworth projections. And this Haworth projection is actually these are depicted by a six-membered ring shaped molecule, and in case of the in case of some there can be a five-membered ring also. Six or so Haworth projections in hexoses can be either in the form of a six-membered or it can be in case of the five-membered. So suppose if it's six-membered, if you just take a six-membered structure, it will be this type of the structure can be called as a pyranose. And if you take a five-membered structure, it can be called as a furanose. So we have to understand how pyranose and furanose looks like. So the pyranose and furanose structures are there. So one is the six-membered pyranose and another is a five-membered furanose. So looking at the glucose molecule, this glucose molecule is when it's converted from the linear structure to the cyclic structure. Clear? Here we know the carbon number 1, it turns out to be again this carbon number 1. In case of this, it again becomes a chiral, and this this carbon number 1, when it becomes a chiral, it's known as anomeric carbon. This is known as anomeric. So anomeric, and on the basis of this, we can make the further differences between the two kinds of the glucose molecules as alpha forms and beta forms. So Anomeric forms can be either alpha or it can be beta. So in this lecture, we'll understand what are the alpha and beta forms of the glucose possible, how these are possible. So what happens in this structure, I'll just explain it like this. There is this carbon, this hydrogen here, look at this thing, and here it will be extra OH group, because you know this OH will be shifted to this, it will be shifted, and there will be a formation of a bond. As far as this H is concerned, because of the presence of lone pair, on oxygen, this H will be shifted to this. This H will be shifted to this O, and it will become OH here. So let's have a look. It will become OH, becomes OH, and then this carbon gets covalently linked. It gets linked directly by means of carbon number 2, carbon number 3, carbon number 4, and carbon number 5. It gets directly linked by means of an oxide bridge to a carbon number. So carbon number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So during the cyclization, in case of the glucose molecule, this carbon number 1, it gets linked. That means aldehyde group is no more now, and here carbon number 1 gets linked with the carbon number 5. It gets linked with the carbon number 5 by means of a bridge which is called as oxide bridge. Oxide bridge. And there is a shift of the there is a shift of H to this aldehyde group, and it gets converted into OH, and then the rest of the things will be same. OH at carbon number 2, H, again it's here H, here it is OH, and at the carbon number 4 there is OH, and here it is H again, and then we have a carbon number 5 H here, and carbon number 6 is CH2OH. So we'll be having here carbon number 6. So this carbon number 5 now becomes chiral. Carbon number 5 was earlier used for the DNL configuration. So this was earlier used for the DNL configuration. Now, because already we have the rule that if there is hydroxyl which is farthest from the functional group, that can be used for the DNL configuration. So in this case, now the carbon number 4 will become the chiral carbon, and it is the it's the farthest carbon as from the functional group, and at the same time the carbon number 1 will be converted into asymmetric carbon, and this carbon will be called as, because it's having a one group called OH, H, clear. These are the different, and it's having a one link with this CHOH, and another is oxide bridge directly with the carbon number 5, and this becomes an asymmetric carbon, and this carbon is known as anomeric carbon. Anomeric carbon. So in short, we can say that carbon number 1, it in linear Fischer projection formula, in the linear structures, it was the aldehyde carbon. But now in case of the ring structures, what happens? It gets also converted into an asymmetric or chiral carbon, and at the same time the aldehyde group is no more. Aldehyde group is converted into a structure called as a hemiacetal. So this is hemiacetal group, and in this hemiacetal formation, that means hemiacetal will be called as pseudoaldehyde. kindly try to understand properly. It will be converted into acetaldehyde. This carbon number now 1 becomes asymmetric by forming an oxide bridge with the carbon number 5. I'll just use a highlighter. It becomes this, forms this type of structure, and it's called oxide bridge. And now in the ring structure, when the structure is converted from the linear to the ring, you will find that aldehyde is converted into an hemiacetal structure, which is known as pseudoaldehyde structure. Pseudoaldehyde, also referred as a hemiacetal. So kindly learn it. And in this way, we'll find that this carbon number 6 is the only carbon which will be outside the oxide bridge. And here, carbon number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 carbons will be linked. They will be present in a ring-like structure. And this ring-like structure, it resembles a figure, and this figure is, in chemistry we will call it as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 members. So this will be carbon number 1, this will be carbon number 2, and this will be carbon number 3, and this will be carbon number 4, and this will be carbon number 5. So in this this type of the structure is called a pyrene. This type of structure will be called as pyrene.